Hello and welcome to another episode of Sensational She-Geek live from Yancey Street. Today is Monday, March 22nd, 2021, and this is episode 10A. Today I will be talking about a great deal of things, both in the TV, movie aspect of the world in comic books and actual comic books themselves. So first we're going to talk about, because I'm just guessing that people are more interested in this, I don't know, tell me if I'm wrong, we'll start with the Snyder Cut. I did an episode a while back where I talked about my 12-ish expectations, points of expectation that I have from this based on what we were kind of promised from Zack Snyder, so I use that as the main basis of going over the 6-ish parts. It was really just a real long movie. It wasn't actually episodic, from the way I could see. But then after that, we have Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode number 1, called New World Order. There is quite a lot to go over with that, and I am very excited to talk about it as well. After that, I will be going into this week's upcoming comics, what we're to expect from New Comic Book Day, as well as some spotlights on creators of color, characters of color, and just general women in comics things. So once again, it is Women's History Month, so that will be mentioned once or twice when we get there. And when we're done with that, the last thing we have to cover today is, I know last episode I talked about the DC June solicitations, and actually there were the Marvel ones that were out, so now I'm going to talk about the Marvel June solicitations, which has some amount of interesting things, some announcements, and some just general continuations or unhappy endings. So lots to cover today in this episode. Once again, we'll be starting with the Snyder Cut, moving into Falcon and the Winter Soldier after that, before hitting actual comic material with upcoming comic books and the Marvel June solicitations. Once again, this is not going to be covering all comic books coming out this week. Definitely hit up your whatever local comic book shop you can, if you can, and ask them what to pick out. I'm sure they would love to give you suggestions of all kinds of things based on what things you already like in life. So definitely do that. I cover just things that I like. Same with the solicitations. I'm not covering the June solicitations. I'm not covering every single one of them. That would take me all day. I'm just going through the things that stood out to me as interesting. So that is what that talk is going to be. But without further ado, we will go ahead and get started with the Snyder Cut. There is a lot to discuss with that. So let's go ahead and jump right into Zack Snyder's Justice League, as he presented it in 6 parts over 4 hours. Let's jump to it. Alright, so to start it off, I'll just say, my overall thoughts. We'll give it out of 10. We'll give it something like a low 6. Like a low 6. Like a hard 6.0 is probably what I would give it. Definitely did not come anywhere near that 7. I don't really know. Maybe it drops a little bit into the 5. It definitely drops a little into the 5 at certain points. But for the most part, I'd say I didn't hate it. There were parts of it that I hated for sure. I didn't hate it as a whole. I think I enjoyed this for sure more than I enjoyed the Whedon cut. But I am still kind of left here wondering what exactly was the Whedon versus the Snyder parts, because it's possible that Snyder just left out things he knew ended up being receptively bad. So I don't know. Well, maybe someday we'll actually, find that out. I don't know if I care enough to find out, actually. But the main flaw, I would say, the reason for the low 6, aside from for so much exposition, which I kind of knew was coming, I'm sure we all knew was coming, was the truly, truly god-awful writing. It was so bad that award-winning or nominated actors couldn't even pull off the lines with the help of a director. Well, I guess the director, Zack Snyder. This was a star-studded cast, and for such a star-studded cast, there was quite a bit of phoning it in, and Snyder let that all slide. Who's to say if he's really the one to blame or the writer for the acting being subpar in a lot of this. And I would say that these other I guess a second. There's three main flaws. There was the god awful writing. The second is the overdoing of tropes. God, massively overdoing of tropes to the point that they became completely meaningless. The tropes that I'm mentioning here are the choir voices and angelic singing of various types for Diana, the various god symbology that happens for literally every character. And the slow motion, which should have just been saved for Barry doing his thing and certain Diana scenes to have kept it so that it made sense and was an important slow motion moment. Otherwise, it became meaningless the way he did it. That's all it should have been, and it didn't work out. The third major, massive, glaring flaw was the music. Holy shit! The music choices were horrendous. Most of it was either dramatic remixes of God Once Loved songs, and the other half of it was barely there, easy to miss orchestral snippets, or overdone sound effects, or overdone, orchestral snippets. Like, it just nothing, there wasn't really any real music. It was just kind of like noise for a lot of it. And then oh my god, I swear, some of the actual worst remixes of songs. I don't even know if they were remixes, but whatever the one was, let's see, I think it was Lois wandering around, being sad, and then the Norse people singing, which, okay, that was not really a remix of any kind, not music being put over the scene, that was just them singing. But, oh god, it was so bad. So bad. Zack Snyder has the worst taste in music of anybody I think I have ever, come across. You have directors like James Gunn who make the music work for the movie, but then you have Zack Snyder who made me want to just stab myself in the ears with the awful music choices he put in this. It was so, so bad. Granted, there was one or two scenes of actual pre-established hero themes, I think Diana got a short little clip of hers. I know there was a quick Batman one and a quick Superman one. That's really all there was to offer, because that's all we've really had from this set of heroes. So those little bits were fine, but they were super forgettable. I watched this kind of twice. I watched it, the first time, and then bits and pieces of the second time as my husband watched it. It starts with a extremely overdone Superman death scene that's entirely in slow motion, and I guess it's supposed to be places around, the death cry heard round the world or something, but it is the stupidest. It's just, you hear this echoing, ah! Across the world. You see the various people in the DC, I guess, Snyder's universe, and they're hearing this, ah! Ah! It's so dumb. And then it starts with the slow motion getting stabbed by whatever it was, the pieces of I was gonna say Abomination. That's not right. Whatever the hell the DC Abomination is, which was fine. But then going into the screaming like that was like a weird choice. That, I would say, that's the things I didn't like about this, for the most part, were just very odd choices. I feel like they went out of their way to make them not good choices. They could have just gone with a much simpler, people will like this, it will be good. But no, they went out of their way to make it, this is gonna be really weird. This is not gonna quite work for a lot of people. Maybe he wanted it that way, I don't know. But to go through, as I said I would, my various list of expectations, 12-ish points, we'll hit 12-ish points heading down the list with what we actually saw. Which those 12 points, just to give you a heads up, various Amazon points, Kilowog, John Jones, Darkseid and Company, Cyborg, Ryan Choi, The Flash, more Atlantis, more Lex, another Nightmare sequence, Joker, and the 12th point is Black Suit Superman. So let's go ahead and get started with the top of that list with the Amazon stuff, including outfits. Their outfits may have been very slightly improved, I don't honestly recall, but they still look supremely awkward. Like, I'm convinced that he just pulled a bunch of models out of whatever model land they come from, and didn't give them any direction, just gave them their, lines or whatever they were supposed to do, and it was just really awkward looking. Their outfits, for the most part, were bizarre again. lots of bikinis running around, when in the actual, Wonder Woman movie, there's none of that. I don't know. It's a major critique I had for the fucking original one too, but whatever. I'd say more importantly than that, though, a critique about the Amazons is they're written completely ignorant, totally naive, and entirely incompetent. There's so many scenes of them just standing around, letting shit get bad, letting the enemy get closer, letting the villain monologue for some goddamn reason, when they should have been fighting, running, escaping, hiding, whatever the hell, anything besides just standing around watching this shit get worse. Literally just standing around watching. I feel so bad for the actress who plays Hippolyta, because I think 90% of her role in this movie was just standing there looking sad with her mouth hanging open. Why was her mouth always hanging open? They had to have been directing her to do that. There's no way. They were just written to be very, very dumb. And they send Diana an arrow instead of just telling her what's going on, which I definitely feel like that was a very roundabout way of doing things to extend the plot of the movie, but whatever. One of many times that happens. There's the museum scene that was in the original one with Diana fighting the guys off. I don't remember it being anywhere near this brutal. Diana is completely brutalizing these guys, and the visual effects on her sped up fighting is still pretty bad. I feel like there's a little bit of, like, sexism happening here with the fight sequences, because further on in the movie, you get some dudes just gently tossed around, and their heads explode practically, and here you have Diana flopping these dudes around like damn rag dolls, like they are dogs fucking with a toy. But there's no sound effects of bone crunching or blood coming out at all. She's brutalizing these guys. There's nothing. It's just they just hit the wall and fall. I can guarantee half those dudes are dead, if not completely paralyzed for life, maimed for life. Like she messed them up real bad, but there was no visual effects of any kind to kind of indicate that, besides their bodies smacking violently against the wall. I like that they gave her that amount of, violence to her. It's a nice take on Diana. It's a nice not fresh, honestly, but it's a nice to see that in the films. But there wasn't really actually any murdering happening. They're trying to make it look like she wasn't killing them when she clearly was. I feel like that was kind of odd. Moving to the second point, Kilowog. Mr. Snyder, dead Kilowog doesn't count, my man. Kilowog was promised to be showing up at the end scene with Martian Manhunter, which he was not in. I guess, what was it? It was not a nightmare. It was when Cyborg's, it was a Cyborg's, like, quote, nightmare sequence, whatever you want to call that flash of a different universe or the future, whatever you want to call that he had, where he sees a bunch of dead hero bodies, including, for a brief moment, we see Kilowog. I don't think that counts when we were specifically promised to have him flying around with, he could have been flying, yeah, hanging out with Martian Manhunter outside Bruce Wayne's house at the end, which he wasn't. But, speaking of Martian Manhunter, the third point here, he had a role, period, which is better than the original Justice League, so bravo. He looked pretty good, in his actual Jon Jones Martian Manhunter look, I think the first time we saw it, it kind of threw me off because it's a lot more different from... The Martian Manhunter face is a lot more different from the actor's face than I was expecting. I was kind of... it's more smoothed, kind of less lips and nose and, brow and, eyes sinking into... less, human facial parts than I was kind of expecting, which I guess is fine. But the role he was given was interesting because I need to rewatch Man of Steel, because that's when he and Lois Lane have this relationship that they develop that shows back up here in the Snyder Cut, which you see Martha goes to talk to Lois in the scene, but then afterwards she's trying to get Lois to get back on the horse with writing and continuing to fight the good fight because Lois has been so depressed since Clark died. But afterwards, when Martha leaves, you find out that Martha is Martian Manhunter back there in March, and it was John Jones trying to get her back on the horse, which I think is really interesting. And then, like I said, there was that end scene. This was actually the final scene of the movie. There was multiple epilogue scenes. This was the final scene of the movie, the very last one, where Bruce Wayne wakes up from his nightmare, which is the scene previous to that, and he sees someone flying outside. The assumption is, oh, it's going to be Superman. But no, he goes out. It's John Jones, Martian Manhunter. We know that he has never met this man before, this creature before, this being before. And he goes out there. I gotta note, definitely 2020 or 2019 Ben Affleck there. There is no way that footage was from Ben Affleck when they were originally filming what we got in the original Justice League in any way. We had big buff, overbuffed basically Ben Affleck, and then we had drunk, divorced Ben Affleck, who was out of shape and scruffy, and they just didn't give a shit, but they still used him to film the redo scenes that they did for the original one. This Ben Affleck we're getting in this final scene was fit. This Ben Affleck was clearly dating that young girl who was in that Chris Evans movie at the time, because he was in fantastic shape, better than even anything we saw in the original, in the rest of the footage, really, period. So that was definitely a scene filmed to add on to whatever he had, promised to make this. They may have had the footage from John Jones flying up to that, but that bits of Bruce himself, that was definitely Ben Affleck more recently. Ben Affleck who's dating a young woman and trying to, be buff and hot again. And he says, basically, John Jones just shows up and says hi and introduces himself. I really would have loved Clark or Bruce to ask a question like, oh, wow, Martian Manhunter? So are you, like, from space or from Mars? I don't know. If it was me, I would have had a follow-up question, too. There are some who call me Martian Manhunter. I definitely would have had a follow-up question to that. That's just me, though. Next point, Darkseid and company. Not in it that much. Darkseid did have one speaking scene, but we didn't actually get to see him properly in it. He was kind of coming through that weird portal gateway, where it was just kind of a rock shaped like him, more or less, not actually him. Granny Goodness did not get any speaking lines. We see her twice for a total of about 6 seconds each at the clearest, or 6 seconds total at the clearest, I should say. Daysod was fine. He was there. He was super alien for some reason, which he's not in the comics. He looked like a member of Thanos' Black Order, I think, which again is just not how he looks. I'm curious if they were just trying to make everybody look super alien, but then they didn't make Granny look super alien. I don't know. It was an odd choice. Once again, just an odd choice. Why did you do that? You just went out of your way to make it different, and it didn't really work, in my opinion. But whatever. There were no Furies, female Furies at all. Period. Thank God, honestly, based on the treatment of the Amazons. But generally just not a lot of the Apocalypse folks, period. It was just, oh gosh, the little dude mans, the little birdie guys, the dudes that fly around. I'm blanking on their names. And then just Daysod was the only one who had a lot of talking lines. So, very, very little, very disappointingly little Darkseid and Granny Goodness for sure. But at least we got to see some Daysod for a little bit, and I guess there was also that future sequence that Cyborg sees again when he touches the mother box, future, alternate reality, whatever it's gonna end up being, if it ends up being anything. Where we see Darkseid, he really maims the fuck out of some people in that future sequence, or whatever it is. So I guess that's kind of cool. Steppenwolf looked, I guess, better, but it was weird when they had him take off all his armor. The whole upper half of his armor, they had him just take off, which was a very weird choice. Especially since that's how they end up killing him, is because he took off all his upper half of it. Why did he do that? It was just weird, and he looked weird, like turtle skin on a, I don't even know, like shark head guy. It was weird. It was very bizarre. And then there was also the Steppenwolf's whole battlegrounds was different as well. With I guess they didn't really have anything like this. It was just growth throughout this Russian territory they're in. And now in this Zack Snyder one, it's like this giant, veiny, egg-like dome over the area to, like, protect it, which, when it came down to it, didn't actually protect it at all, so they got through it without really trying very hard. So that didn't really seem to do them any good. Also, Steppenwolf didn't get killed by the from Apocalypse. You know, the things I can't remember their name of right now. It'll come to me. It was actually Arthur stabs him in the chest because he, again, took off his armor for some reason. And then Diana chops his head off, which was kind of cool. Again, I like seeing brutal Diana. I just really appreciate it. So that covers, I think, most of the Darkseid and company stuff that we saw. Would have loved to see more of any of them. Well, mostly just more of Darkseid and Granny Goodness. Mostly just Darkseid, honestly, because I don't trust him with Granny Goodness. But what we got was pretty cool, so we'll see if anything comes of that at all in the future. Cyborg, next point. I gotta say, it looks really bad that so many of the Cyborg scenes were cut out, and so many good Cyborg scenes were cut out. We basically just got him in Whedon's Justice League, angrily stomping around, being moody and stuff, but here we actually see stuff happening with him. It's so much more of him and his dad, the Star Labs, the Mother Box, everything about it, and none of that we got in the Whedon cut. If I was going to be really annoying and picky, it's actually not a very picky point. I think, like, this is a very glaring error once again. Weird choice just to get his dad to die. He's being chased by Steppenwolf. He's got a solid, like, 15-second head on him, which we see when this all happens. So he's trying to basically find out later, he's trying to superheat the Mother Box so that they can track it after Steppenwolf takes it. So he goes into the room with the superheater and the Mother Box, closes himself in there, and then stands there for like a solid 7 seconds while he watches Steppenwolf slowly catch up to him. Then he sees Cyborg show up and fight Steppenwolf. Then he presses the button to superheat the damn thing, and because he's in the room with it, he dies. Why was he in the room with it? That was so stupid. There are a million other ways that scene could have played out. He didn't have to be in the room with the fucking thing. That was so stupid. There was no reason for this man to have to sacrifice himself to overheat that thing. He could have used that trigger anywhere in the room, presumably in the building. He could have run around the back side of the box, hidden behind it, while Steppenwolf spends those 7 seconds breaking into the room, press the button anytime during those 7 seconds. But no, again, just more people looking like idiots just standing around. I get you freeze up and stuff, but, like, priorities, guys! We still have priorities! Like, if you thought that it was okay to lock yourself in that box, if you had that amount of forethought that you were gonna die because you did that and you're okay with that, you should have had the amount of forethought to run around the back of it or just stand next to it and press the damn button instead of standing there for 7 seconds while Steppenwolf breaks into the room. It was ridiculous. I'm sorry, I got really excited about that. Other Star Labs things. Right, I guess they just really need to have Cyborg have the dead parent arc, I guess. Both dead parents, but whatever. Ryan Choi, he did show up. Ryan Choi is the modern Adam. Ray Park or Ray Fisher? No, Ray Fisher's the actor. Ray something is the old school Adam. So interesting that he chose Ryan Choi. It's a choice that I really like, and it's a very timely choice in my opinion. He is played by an actual Chinese actor. I did have to look it up. He is a Chinese actor who graduated from the Shanghai Performance Institute, I believe. So I'm happy to report that his Chinese accent was not a forced, faked Chinese accent, thank God. It ended up that he was one of the coolest Easter eggs, in my opinion. And like I said, very timely, relevant to have this Chinese man take charge of Star Labs as he did in the end of the movie. Which looks like it left a really awesome door open for him in the future. If anything continues with this, I would love for him to have a chance as well to continue his story, because like I said, I think it's very important to have that kind of Asian representation at the forefront of these kind of properties when these kinds of things are happening in the world, unacceptable violence against Asians and Asian Americans type things. So really, really happy to see Ryan Choi pop up as an actual Asian actor playing an actual Asian man. Or rather, actual Chinese actor playing an actual Chinese man is more direct there. But anyway, moving on, we have The Flash. various scenes that we were promised to have with him. Turns out, Kiersey, Kiersey, I think that's how you say it. Kiersey Clemons' Iris, was phenomenal. She and Wally have so much chemistry, and they didn't even speak to one another. Wally's headed to a job interview, and he basically bumps into her as she's on the way out, and they can't stop staring at each other. She walks to her car, she's out, looking at her, watching her through the window, gets in her car and drives off, but she drives off into a semi, which missed the light, and Barry, kind of being Barry, he watches this all goes down as she crashes into it. He breaks out of his shoes, just kind of lightly steps out of them as they burst apart and kind of in semi-slow motion, which is awesome because he's the Flash. He moves at the speed that he moves at. Of course, his shoes would pop off his feet as soon as he starts to move like that. Really, really awesome detail. That was one of the cool details that they added in here for really awesome reasons. And he continues to kind of go out there, jog out to help. And this was also the scene where we get, I think it was in the trailer where he touches the glass and the glass shatters in the big circle like that. So we get to see that. That's really cool. He breaks through the glass, and he kind of watches her go through the air, stunned by her still. So he runs up to her as she's about to hit the semi, be crushed. He grabs, there's a hot dog cart, I guess, that got caught in the crash as well, and he grabs a flying hot dog that's slowly passing by, because everything's, of course, in slow motion to him. And he eventually is able to stop her mid-crash, protecting her neck. Take note, Peter Parker. It was a really great scene. Granted, whatever critiques there are of the actor who plays the Flash, Ezra Miller, I'm aware that he is a problematic person. This was an amazing scene. It was probably easily one of my favorite scenes from the movie. And I can't believe that it was something that we didn't cut. If they had all of this footage and they just needed to do the CGI, there was no reason for them to cut this. This was the only scene that Barry got additional to in the movie, which I think was the only thing we really needed because it fit so well in his character, and if we're going to be seeing him in anything else, and Kiersey Clemons' Iris in anything else, this was that, I guess, root point of meet cute, whatever you want to call it, of their relationship starting and being important for the future of whatever they may be in the movie. So really sad that got cut. Again, it looks really, really bad. That we didn't cut a lot of this stuff. Oh, I forgot with the cyborg thing. I forgot to mention my absolute favorite line. I'm being sarcastic. So Cyborg fixes Batman's plane at one point in the movie, and they're going up. The plane is like super not helpful. I think this is destroyed later on too. But they're going up, and Cyborg's talking about how he was communicating with it, and he's basically talking to it, and he tells Batman, "It wanted to fly. It was made to fly," or something like that. His dramatic cyborg voice is a really terrible imitation of it. And Batman looks at him, I swear to God, Batman looks at him and goes, "You too." Like, what? What? Like, you were too. Whatever it was, he's basically saying, you fly too, man. Like, what was this cheesy dad shit that just came out of Bruce Wayne's mouth? What? Oh gosh, I actually started laughing so hard that I was crying when I first heard that line. It is one of the worst acted, worst written sequences in the entire movie, and it is so bad that it is amazing. Which is pretty bad. Anyway, moving on to where I was before. Next point, more Atlantis. Like I said before, what the actual hell was that awful, creepy Norse singing bullshit? I could not believe I was watching that. And it went on and on, and it went on and on and on, and it would not stop. And then it got really emotional, and it's just awkward Norse singing to Aquaman, who doesn't give a shit about awkward Norse singing. He's long gone, but they're singing to him like he's some sort of Jesus from heaven. Once again, too much God symbology. Please rein it in. It was ridiculous. This was such a bad musical choice. Once again, Also, moving on from that particular thing, is it just me, or were there several points from Aquaman that were retconned? One thing I'm really not certain about, I thought that in Aquaman they mentioned that only those of royal blood could breathe, air and water. But then in this, I'm pretty sure we had a buttload of dudes just, walking out of water and being fine. I don't know. As far as I remember, every other Atlantean who's come up to the surface has had one of those water bubble helmets on, like we saw in Aquaman. But it seems like just another weird retcon thing he's doing. Possibly. I don't really know. Let me know if you know. But one thing that I know they definitely changed, but I don't know why, because again, it makes the Aquaman movie not legit based on, if you're basing it on this and not on that, was the the body of the dead king with the trident, whatever his whole name was, that it was in the Aquaman movie. His mom showed it to him, Nicole Kidman, after she was long lost and he found her, and then she showed him this, and how it's guarded by this big old sea monster who he kind of befriends, and that's how he becomes king. But here, he just kind of like walks up to it, somehow aware of its existence already, and just like looks at it like, oh, I don't want to have to take this yet. Like, what? He doesn't know about this even yet. There was more of his teacher, which was something that was kind of promised, whatever his teacher's name was. And I have to admit, no matter how much I hate Amber Heard, the scene of Mera fighting Steppenwolf was really, really badass. It was honestly very well handled, like how she had the red wine in whatever Mediterranean country in Aquaman that she utilized as a weapon. She pulled Steppenwolf's, the liquid from his body, out of his body, which is really one of my favorite things about the character Mera, is that she can do that really, really well. So, don't like Amber Heard, but I really, really did like how they added that. And I don't know, again, we don't know if that's something that was pre-recorded or that was one of the reshoots for Zack Snyder's Justice League. I would assume reshoots, at least some of the stuff that Mera was in, but I don't know about that scene in particular, because it was something that was promised to have Mera fighting Steppenwolf, so I don't know. Next point is more Lex Luthor. He basically just changed Lex, he changed the jail scene to make more sense, leading into the Lex on the scene of the boat. Instead of Lex being the Joker-like, laughing, saying whatever weird crap he was to Batman in Arkham, instead it was a guard walking up to him and finding that Lex has been replaced by some old crazy guy, insinuating that Lex is out on the loose, he's escaped. And then you cut to the Deathstroke scene, which was longer, and you get lines from Deathstroke, which was excellent. Again, don't know if that was pre-recorded or if that was additional footage that they added to this. But he also takes his mask off. It was really nice. I really like him as Deathstroke. I really like Joe Manganiello? Whatever. I don't know how to say his last name, but I like him as Deathstroke. It's awesome. And I love that he's like, he's a secret nerd too, so it's perfect. So I guess it's not really more Lex necessarily. It's just generally better at handling of his roles and scenes. So you had no, as far as I remember, no lame slow-mo sequence in this series of Lex scenes either. Thank goodness. We're getting towards the end here. The last 3 points that I have are another nightmare sequence, the Joker, and the Black Suit Superman. Since Black Suit Superman is the shortest, I'll just go with that one first. Basically, we got it. We were supposed to have it in the beginning. Don't know why they cut it. And it would appear that if we see this Superman going forward, he will probably be in that black suit for some time. Undefined amount of time. It seems to be the suit that he's going to be wearing for a while as Superman. For the nightmare sequence, it's the second to last end credit scene, I suppose. The what did he call it? Epilogue, I think, is what he put in the actual film. The name epilogue, title epilogue. It features a team: Batman, Mera, Flash, Cyborg, Deathstroke, and the Joker in this post-apocalyptic looking world that we know Batman originally saw in Dawn of Justice. So that was kind of Snyder continuing his whole universe that he's trying to establish, whether or not it's connected to the Flashpoint movie. It's the same, it's between what we saw in Cyborg's visions with the Mother Box and Bruce's dreams and visions, I basically think that what we're seeing here every time we see this is some kind of second or future reality, alternate reality maybe. We're seeing it's like like the worst possible timeline, which we might see. See, I get kind of caught up in this because I don't know if they're going to reference this at all, or if they're going to make the Flashpoint movie completely different than any of this, if they're just going to totally ignore this and go off in a different direction. I don't really know, because he kind of set this up to be the perfect lead-in for the Flash movie, because if you take all of these sequences, we can see this future timeline established in that potential Flashpoint movie, where, the theory then would be somehow Barry will mess up time and redo the world on accident the way that he does in the Flashpoint comic, to be what we see in these scenes and sequences in between the Zack Snyder Justice League and Batman vs. Superman. And that leaves the those scenes of Barry coming to Bruce, those dreams, I guess, or visions, that leaves that to be Barry trying to fix it or keep it from happening again at all costs. Of course, the other major theory about this would be that it is the definitive future, and the Flash movie will be Barry trying to fix that, change it for the better. So, just a few points before I get into the Joker, a few points about that the various nightmare sequences. You get Aquaman gets killed by King Aquaman gets killed by Darkseid. Wonder Woman is dead, and her mother is crying again, looking sad. It's all she does in this whole movie, is stand around looking sad. And then you get Superman in his black suit holding the very definitely dead, crisped up body of Lois Lane, because you can see it's got some red hair. Lois Lane isn't supposed to have red hair, but she does in this for some reason. She's also very wispy and annoying in this. Amy Adams was so underutilized. But anyway, and he's obviously crushed. She's holding her dead body, and you see Darkseid's hand clap down on his shoulder. Basically, this is some kind of Injustice type universe where Superman accidentally kills Lois, and Darkseid uses him as his, new man on Earth to take over the shit. That's generally, if this is going to connect to that Flashpoint movie, that looks to be generally what Snyder is claiming is going to happen in that Flashpoint movie, in that, dark, alternate, twisted reality. The Joker is the last point here. We didn't have that "we live in a society" line. He just did it for the trailer. Possibly just did it for the lulz. Not really sure. We may never know. I'm really glad they gave Jared Leto another shot at this, because he did pretty well. He did really well, I think. His lines were a little weak at parts, but that's not his fault. And Batman was completely phoning it in. These were obviously definitive reshoots from recent times, by the way, everything in this. This last scene, this nightmare sequence, Batman was completely phoning it in. But Leto did really, really well with what he had to work with, I think. Like we were told, or like I was told, I guess, he was very much along the lines of the Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo Joker. Totally insane, doesn't know or care why, he's just insane. So if you felt an awkward or uncomfortable feeling when he was just kind of staring silently, not saying anything with a weird frozen face, that you were supposed to feel awkward and uncomfortable, and like you weren't really sure what he was doing there. That was on purpose. That was exactly what the Joker is. He's not out here to make a scene or steal things or cause drama between people. He's fucking off his goddamn rocker, and it's supposed to show like it kind of does here. So I think that covers the Snyder Cut. I think that's it. I think I'm wrapping it up. Gosh, almost 40 minutes of talking about the Snyder Cut, and I still have quite a bit to talk about. This is going to be a long episode. Maybe I should have made the Snyder Cut its own thing. No, because I'm mostly critiquing it, and that wouldn't be very fun. Moving forward, we're going to talk about Falcon and then Winter Soldier Episode 1. So strap yourself in. We'll make it nice. I'll try and talk quickly, but legibly, listenably. I don't know words today. I'm struggling. So this episode, Falcon and the Winter Soldier Episode 1, is called New World Order. I will basically be going through things kind of in the order that they happen. The title New World Order is definitely meant to be ominous, as you will see in the ending of this. Once again, spoilers for everything as usual. It is quite a new world order we seem to be heading ourselves into here. It starts off, we get to see Batroc, or Bartrock, however you pronounce his name. He's French. He is called the Leaper in the comics. We got to see him first in the Winter Soldier opening fight scene, that absolutely stunning fight scene between him and Chris Evans. Really, really awesome to see him again. I'm glad he was brought back because he is a well-known character from the comics, although he does look far less ridiculous here. Fun to see him kicking things all over the place, as he, is meant to, because he's the Leaper. One of my favorite story of his I've ever read, really the only one that I've read that was just kind of about him and somebody else, was he went on a date with Black Cat in an issue of Black Cat last year, and it was actually quite an educational issue on him as a character. And it kind of made me like him as a character a little bit. So check that out if you're interested in him. The episode itself focuses a lot more on Sam than Bucky, but you definitely get a lot more of those those really sad heartstring tugs from the Bucky elements of the episode. We start on the Sam side, like I said, he's fighting Batroc. And then he ends up fighting these guys in North Africa, which is a great intro to interesting to the show's unique style of action, which you have one half is the Winter Soldier stuff and one half is Falcon stuff. So you have a lot of in-air, unplaned sequences. It's very unique to have somebody in flight. I guess possibly closest to Iron Man, which I think is actually something the showrunners said they wanted to match those action sequences from Iron Man. After this flight, he meets in some little town with Joaquin Torres, who is an undercover agent who tells him about the group called the Flag Smashers. So that is one point that we know there were theories that that girl, the redheaded girl who is part of this group, is going to be called Flag Smasher herself. It seems that that's less likely, that she is a gender-bent character called Flag Smasher, or based off of, or a gender-bent character based off of the character Flag Smasher, Carl, whatever his name was. Seems a little less likely. I'm still hoping that she's going to be Sin, a relative of Red Skull, because that would leave a really awesome long-term villain role for her that I would love to see. Basically, the Flag Smashers in this, they say they would like the world better during the blip, and they think that all the world should be united under one flag, which doesn't really sound that bad, but here they are going around terrorizing stuff, so clearly there's some bad stuff going on. At one point we see Torres taking part of some kind of group mob thing that they sent out like a message to their fans, meet us here and just make a distraction from this robbery. I'm not really sure. He gets his butt kicked pretty bad by this super dude. So clearly the Flag Smashers have access to some kind of super serum possibly, or just super people. Definitely worth noting, Joaquin Torres, he becomes the Falcon in Sam Wilson Captain America number 6, which was 2016. He was only introduced in issue number 5. He was only introduced as Falcon in issue number 5, and he only first appeared period in number 3 of that series. So he's only been around for a short amount of time, but he is the second Falcon coming after Sam Wilson. So hopefully we'll be seeing him take up that mantle in this show. But it also brings up another good point that I had thought about. A lot of what we're seeing in this show is what you might call recent Marvel history for the comics. Bucky only returned in 2005, which was 16 years ago now, and Sam even toying with being Cap was far more recent than that. While they themselves are, in a way, an extension of Captain America's legacy, it looks like a lot of the stuff, a lot of this Cap stuff that we're dealing with here is just the roots. And most of the main product of the show is going to be taken from the comics within the last 20 years. So that's something I think is really interesting, and it definitely goes along with what Marvel is doing in other aspects of the MCU, and that is why one of the biggest guesses of the next Avengers movie is going to be Young Avengers, because that's all a lot more new stuff, new characters, next generation. It seems to be very much in the way that they're leading. We started with Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. I can guarantee we're going to get Monica Rambeau as the next one, although she was the first one. But you see what they're doing. They're making these second generation moves already. So I think that's really exciting, and I think it's definitely worth thinking about seeing characters like Joaquin and whatever, Iron Lad, whatever future characters we may see as the next generation characters for the MCU. But moving forward, we see that Sam goes back to his family home in New Orleans to see his sister Sarah, who is having financial hard times. It looks like their family is a fishing family there in New Orleans, that is their legacy. It sounds like they were basically raised on that fishing boat. But she's looking to sell the family fishing boat because financial hard times. She wants to give herself, I think she's got a kid. I think they had a kid in the picture. I'm pretty sure they did, and they said her husband had died. That's right, because they do that in the bank scene. So she's had a rough go of it, obviously, being a single mom in the South, a black single mom in the South. And here Sam shows up, having not been here for a really long time, and thinks that he, being a superhero, can help her get back on her feet by getting a bank loan. The scene at the bank is supremely awkward, where the guy initially starts talking about how he's a big fan of Falcon, wants to take a picture with him and all this stuff, and then turns them down without a second thought. The point is clear. The scene is awkward and the point is clear. It doesn't matter who Sam Wilson is. There is no bank around this area that is going to help this struggling black woman. Especially a struggling black woman who seems to have a small business. If you think that's a ridiculous takeaway for me to have from that scene, sorry not sorry, but that is reality, folks. He is in Louisiana, the deep South. America is prickly with these everyday mild to worse casual racism write-offs. And the bulk of them are in the Bible Belt. This is definitely Marvel bringing up systemic racism here, and I think if you don't see it still, that's you choosing not to face this ugly reality. And that's not the only time that they bring it up in this show, so I'm definitely on board for that kind of topicality being mentioned. I don't really remember when the Smithsonian, I think it's right after that the Smithsonian scene happens. Sam brings the shield to a Smithsonian ceremony. It was an amazing scene full of foreshadowing and full of black people, which is worth mentioning because this is, it's worth mentioning first of all, I guess, because this is a scene that is extremely realistic that way. They're in Washington, D.C. Of course, there's going to be a large variety of people. It's not just going to be, you get Sam and Rhodey and they're the only ones in the room, which brings me to my second point. Having a shot full of black people makes it even more firmly keeping Sam and Rhodey, as we see him, from being the token black characters in the MCU. Yes, I would like to see more of that. It's like the jokes about Star Trek, how there's only, or Star Wars, I guess, there's only 2 or 3 black characters in all of the Star Wars universe, Having these black people in the background keeps them from being token black characters, and that is awesome. I think if you didn't notice that, you're probably just somebody who lives in like a city like DC and that's normal to you. And if that did rub you the wrong way, too bad. He and Rhodey do talk, which was nice. I saw a joke on Twitter about how they're bonding so well because they both lost their white men. Because Iron Man and Captain America, get it? Okay, it was funny. I think he mentions his sister's situation to Rhodey. I honestly don't remember a lot of the conversation, but the takeaway from the scene is that this is Sam donating the shield to the Smithsonian Museum because he doesn't think he's worthy of using it. He doesn't think that it's time for Captain America to have a replacement. It's too soon. And he questions if it should be himself. The curator even says, whatever he is, the curator likely, thank you for making the right decision. Or he says something like that. I doubt it was that friendly. Basically just saying, we've been waiting for you to give this to us. Good. Period. It's important to remember that, especially at the end of the episode. When we see Bucky, he's mid having a nightmare about being on a Winter Soldier murder spree in some European-looking hotel including the needless death of a young tourist, a young man who was clearly in the wrong place at the wrong time, begs for his life, he still ends up dead. And at that point, Bucky wakes up on the floor covered in sweat. It is a clear call out to real life stories of soldiers who come home from war and can't get accustomed to a real bed once again. Really, really nice touch they added in there. I'm sure a lot of people really, really appreciated that bit of reality. He goes to therapy later, telling his therapist about this woman who he kind of stalked. She was one of the Hydra agents that he was used by, and he confronts her with threats of, well, he does remotely hijack her car and then threatens to do worse, and basically forces her to listen to him, saying that she has no control over him anymore, and that this is part of his therapy, and he just walks off and leaves her. Oh my god, that is the most Bucky thing. But I guess the therapist told him to make amends, and this is part of him making amends or whatever. So that's amazing. I love it. I also think the therapist was the one to mention it was because she looked through his phone, joshing him about, you say you're getting accustomed to people, but you have no contacts and you haven't made a phone call in a week. And yes, she mentions that he's ignoring Sam's texts too. So Sam is clearly reaching out to him. They have this connection that was Captain America, and he is gone now. He's clearly not around anymore. So that is something that at least Sam feels like they should be connecting over, and that is something Bucky clearly is not ready to do yet. He has no personal relationships really. But we do see that Bucky goes to dinner later on with this old Asian man who we learn is called Yuri. Yuri. They kind of talk fondly at this restaurant for a little while. So it's nice to see that he's at least made this one friend. But then the old man mentions the death of his young adult son on a foreign trip. Then you see Bucky's face change, and you realize this man is the father of that boy he killed on that mission, who he continues to see in his nightmares. Jesus Christ, Bucky. This leaves him somewhere between making up for a past sin and extreme glutton for punishment. Really remarkable also to think about the line from Civil War, where he's fighting Captain America, and he's fighting Iron Man, and Iron Man says something along the lines of, they were nothing to you, or something like that, all his kills, do you even remember them? And Bucky looks at him and he says, I remember every single one of them. And somebody made a meme kind of putting those two scenes together. Yep, that is a heartstring tugger. Big glutton for punishment there, Bucky, that Bucky. The old man, Yuri, gets him on a date with the girl at the restaurant, Leah, who he's flirting with. But when they go out, he panics because she mentions Yuri's son as well, and he winds up heading back to check on Yuri briefly, at which point we see a photo on the mantle of his son, confirming for viewers who exactly Yuri is, while also filling in, for anybody who didn't get that right off the bat, that he is the father of that young boy who Bucky killed in the past. The episode ends with a killer. Sam is watching TV with his sister, where there is a news announcement from Washington, D.C., or something. It's some old white dude is talking about how America needs someone to hold them together now more than ever. And he introduces the new Captain America. Holy shit. He walks out and your skin crawls. He's holding Cap's shield. He's horrendous, like some kind of messed up cross between the old man from Up and that bastard Baratheon or whatever he is from Game of Thrones. It is seriously uncanny. I feel sorry for the actor that he's getting so much hate, but wow, you haven't even said a line yet and you're already knocking it out of the park that much. I can't. When he starts talking, oh my gosh, we're just gonna start vomiting uncontrollably. At that point, after that kind of settles, the attentive viewer, the point of this moment being seen from Sam's point of view kind of hits you. And you remember that the curator made those comments about being grateful that he finally handed over the shield. They waited for him to hand over the shield, told him it was for the museum, lied to his face, told him it was for the people to see and to appreciate. And then they handed it off to the guy they already had on the inside, definitely already picked out and outfitted up, ready to go. Why did they do this instead of just letting Sam be their new Cap the way that Cap himself wanted? Easy answer. They didn't want a black Captain America. That's what this shit is. It's possible that it's going to tie also into him U.S. agent being potentially part of Flag Smasher or a super soldier of evil means or something, but they definitely did not want a black Captain America. And now Sam is sitting here feeling like the girl who didn't get picked for prom, kind of, but in a much, much worse way. Of course, there are still a lot of questions to be answered, like who the redhead girl is. We don't know what is going to bring Sam and Bucky actually together, although I can guess it'll be this perversion of the shield, and that they will take it back. Which, by the way, was the marketing hashtag made when Sam Wilson in the comics was taking the shield back from Hydra Cap in the comics. Hashtag take back the shield. And makes me think that this was, again, another modern bit that they equally pulled from this modern arc. Just the way that they have the new U.S. agent. I wonder if he is going to be slightly inspired by that modern Hydra Cap character as well, because he was the villain in that story. I would really love for that hashtag take back the shield to catch on. Use it for me if you have a Twitter or something. That wraps up my coverage of Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 1. I will be covering episode 2, of course, next Monday, which I guess is going to be the 29th if I can do math in my head. And so I'm really excited for this. It's not at all anything like WandaVision. This is definitely along the lines of the kind of movies that we got when we got Captain America movies. My cat's scratching her litter box, if you can hear that. But I'm really excited for it. It's a good thing that they are keeping all these multiple styles of MCU properties going. We just had this incredible high science fiction fantasy, really not rooted in reality in the slightest bit in WandaVision, and now we're here in this very, very real, very, very close to home, very much an action, real world, super grounded in reality show. So I'm very much excited that we're going to be getting a lot of variety going forward in the MCU, whether that's in TV shows or movies. And it makes me wonder even more with shows like Ms. Marvel, Moon Knight, She-Hulk, Armor Wars, all of the stuff that we're going to be getting in the future. Are we what the genre is? I can't even, who knows? It's going to be great. It's a world of opportunities, and I feel like this being a bang-up premiere of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, she's still scratching, is a excellent sign for the future of MCU properties in general. Next up, I am going to talk a little bit about the pull list for the week that I have, including some spotlights on some representation. Let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to talk a little bit about Bitterroot, which is one of the best indie series out right now. It's only on issue 11. 11 is coming out this Wednesday. Of course, this new comic book week is going to be, tomorrow will be the DC books on Tuesday the 23rd, and then Wednesday the 24th is the rest of them, the way they are usually on New Comic Book Day on Wednesdays. Bitterroot is a completely fabulous series. It is written by Chuck Brown and David F. Walker, with art by Sanford Green, who, I have to add, I actually met him and David F. Walker, I believe it was, in person. Really, really nice guy. Sanford Green was such a nice man to talk to. It was right before the pandemic started. I was about a year and a month ago, thereabouts. I got from him the print. He did the connecting covers. I believe there were 4 connecting covers for the, I want to say, the Ta-Nehisi Coates Black Panther series, issues 1 through 4. I think it was the 2018 series. One of the most stunning prints that I have. Sanford Green's art style is unparalleled. It's one of those supremely comic booky art styles that it fits the worlds that he works in so stupendously. And between Chuck Brown and David F. Walker, I'm not sure who writes what or how they really handle co-writing this comic, but basically this is the Harlem Renaissance, and we have a black family of monster hunters. That's the general gist of Bitterroot. It's a lot of fun. In recent issues, we learned it just came off a long hiatus again. Recent issues, we learned that there are actually the different communities in New York all have their own families, cultural families that protect them from these monsters, and they all call them by their different cultural names and things. But hopefully not spoiling it too much as a series for you. At the point that I think we left off, they were starting for the first time ever to come together, these different families, including this main family that we see in Bitterroot in Harlem. And it's really nice to see. I can't recommend Bitterroot enough. It's only 11 issues in. It's a very slow to come out series, but good lord, is it worth it. Also this week we have Batman Superman number 16 coming out. It is relevant into my spotlights because it is written by Asian American writer and artist Gene Luen Yang. He has done some fantastic stuff for Future State just recently for DC Comics, as well as a series called Superman Smashes the Klan, which was, I believe, a redo of a radio program. Redo of something. I think it was a redo of a radio program. Absolutely fantastic comic. Gene Luen Yang is a wonderful man to follow on social media. Very thoughtful, very attentive, and just a fantastic writer. So check out Batman Superman number 16 this week. It is his first issue on the ongoing series. As far as women in comic representation goes, we have some really nice ones this week. First off was Harley Quinn number 1 by Stephanie Phillips. Stephanie Phillips has been on some really nice stuff, including the Future State Harley Quinn, Nuclear Family, and some random other Harley anthology stories, I guess you would say, that have been popping up throughout DC Comics. I really loved her first issue of Nuclear Family, which is based off of the Philip K. Dick Breakfast at Twilight, if you are familiar with that at all. It had a nice first issue. She popped up on my radar last year as a writer, and pretty much everything that I've read from her since then has been top tier. So definitely check out Stephanie Phillips as a writer if you're interested in the Harley Quinn comics. This is a new canon Harley Quinn series. The last Harley Quinn series, for whatever reason, was not in the canon DC universe. This one is, and it does come along with a new outfit, a new look for Harley. I really like it. It's very similar to her original geometric black and red look, but less clown-like because, of course, they're trying to distance her from the Joker using her the way that he always did in their relationship. We also have Harley Quinn recently coming out officially as queer in the in the DC universe. It was not canon in the main DC comics for a long time. There was a lot of alternate realities where it was canon, but for whatever reason they were just so withheld from letting that happen. And finally, just in very recent history, within the past couple of weeks, they have officially confirmed that Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy are/were in a relationship in the comics, romantically, seriously involved. So that is really nice to see finally. Unsure if we're going to see any of that touched on or even mentioned in this Harley Quinn series. I just don't recommend reading her in Batman because it's written very poorly. Detective Comics 1034 is the first issue of Batman's Detective Comics written by Mariko Tamaki. She, of course, did the Future State Dark Detective series, so if you liked those 4 issues at all, alongside artist Dan Mora, definitely check out Mariko Tamaki's run on Detective Comics. My favorite work from hers outside of, just my favorite work of hers, period, I guess I should say, was the 2016 Hulk/She-Hulk series. It switched titles halfway through. Really enjoyed that. It had touched on so many different aspects of Jen Walters' character and took her to new places that I really appreciated to see as a woman myself. So I'm very interested in seeing her after the success of her Dark Detective series, how this Detective Comics series is going to run with Mariko Tamaki. I will read the first few issues of anything she writes, just because I love supporting my fellow female writers, and she is one who tends to be on top of things with her content. And finally, for the spotlights, we have Black Panther number 24, which I mentioned because this week it has the Jen Bartel Women's History Month variant featuring Shuri. I believe Shuri's first appearance was 2005, I want to say. I don't have the picture right in front of me. But so Jen Bartel, as she did with all of these women's history covers, there are 8 of them in total. This is the 4th. She looked at fashion from Shuri's place of origin, which is of course various African nations, and gave her a nice modern fashion outfit, as well as her comic book fighting outfit, not her Black Panther outfit, because that was established at a different point in time, in the corner box. So definitely check that out if you're a fan of Shuri, Black Panther, or Jen Bartel's art. That's 3 different reasons that you have out there to get it. Honestly, you should definitely check it out. Plus, they put the titles of these issues for the Women's History Month covers. They make them in the Vanity Fair font, and because Jen Bartel did such a fabulous job with the fashion design for each of these characters, they do look like Vanity Fair covers. And I think once I get all 8, I'm definitely gonna get them all framed like people do Vanity Fair covers, I'm sure. Maybe, do they? I don't know. But there's a couple other things here to talk about for things coming out in comics this week. King in Black Scream number 1 is an unfortunate one-shot, by which I mean it is unfortunately a one-shot and not an ongoing or mini-series of any kind. It is written by Clay McLeod Chapman, who has been handling pretty much all of the Scream projects in the modern era, at least going as far back as, 2018-ish, with the Absolute Carnage event that Donny Cates started, that was really the precursor to King in Black. This series, I wish it was a series, this issue continues with Andy Benton being the host for the Scream symbiote. Actually, if you are a fan of the character Scream, there was the Planet of the Symbiotes King in Black tie-in. The issue number 1 of that did have a secondary, well, it had, I think, the first story, and it was about Scream, actually coming across her fellow Life Family symbiotes, and fighting all of them. So that was really, really fun to see. Again, written by Clay McLeod Chapman, who has an excellent grasp of this character. He writes her extremely well, as well as Andy Benton. And I'm hoping this is a standard 36-page issue, but I am really, really hoping that this is going to be something that is like every ounce of energy that could have gone into a mini-series crammed into this one issue. I really loved Scream as a character, and I'm very sad that she hasn't been in comics too much, especially this is the damn King in Black event. I thought that she was going to be all over this shit because she's a symbiote, but no, they just given her a one-shot. So that's disappointing, but I am going to take what I can get, by damn. Batman Black and White number 4 is another one that is an anthology book that I pick up here and there, depending on the creative teams. This week had two particular stories that really, 3 now that I'm actually looking at it deeper. 3 stories of the at least 4, 5 stories. 3 of the 5 stories, it looks like, are really interesting to me, so that's plenty for me to pick this one up, including a Chip Zdarsky and Nick Bradshaw story about, let's see, what does it say here? Poison Ivy comes to the front door of Wayne Manor to demand ecological responsibility from Bruce Wayne. Oh, I can't wait. That sounds brilliant. Chip Zdarsky writing Poison Ivy, oh my god. That's gonna be so fun. Another one that caught my attention was Becky Cloonan, who I mentioned in a previous week. When she has more control over an entire project, it's definitely more of a gothic, dramatic style, and I love it. She also has a variant cover, I believe. Is it a variant? I guess it's the main cover. She has the main cover, oh gosh, I think it's the main cover of Batman Black and White number 4, if you're curious what her art style looks like. But here she has a story where she is writing a murder mystery. It says a murder mystery for Batman to solve, set at a circus, featuring art by legendary artist Terry Dodson, who I absolutely love. And then we have Daniel Warren Johnson putting Batman at the mercy of Two-Face. Daniel Warren Johnson did, if you read Wonder Woman Dead Earth, that was all his project, and it was a stunner. It was one of my favorite alternate reality one of my favorite versions of Diana, period, I would say, across the whole DC universe. And last, I believe this issue is going to be the premiere. Yes, it does say here the 5th story is going to be the premiere of Gotham Academy's character Maps Mizuguchi as the new Robin. I'm not sure anything about Maps, but that is something, if you are a fan of collecting key Batman issues, you will definitely want to pick up this Batman Black and White number for this week. This week also has the final issue of Batman White Knight Presents Harley Quinn number 6. This is written by, of course, Katana Collins, who is a romance writer and actually the wife of writer and creator of the Murphyverse, Sean Gordon Murphy, who also co-writes this. So it's really fun to see a project taken on by the two of them, and to also see a project, a Murphyverse project taken on by a colorist, an artist who was not Sean Gordon Murphy. I think they've, Matteo Scalera, I think is the name, Matteo Scalera, absolutely phenomenal, almost mimicking of Murphy's art himself, using the same designs as Murphy's designs. Beautiful, beautiful series. I've been enjoying it, head to toe, absolutely fantastic. And in this issue, we're going to get the premiere of the Harley Quinn Noir suit, which is good. I think it's going to be a suit that basically Batman makes her a bat suit, but, claims it's a Harley suit, so she'll wear it. It's basically a Batman suit. It's got little yellow details. It's basically a Batman suit. And I love that they have their little bit of romance. Once again, Katana Collins is a romance novelist, and you can definitely feel that between the chemistry of Harley and Bruce. I'm excited to see if that touches down to anything in this final issue. Cable number 9. I have some sad news about Cable in the next segment, but Cable number 9 is coming out this week. I feel like it's been so long since we've had a Cable issue, and I am in need of that Phil Noto interior. He is phenomenal at everything, Phil Noto. I am so excited to get the issue of Black Cat number 1 that I ordered that has, he can't draw cats. That's the one thing he can't do. He draws dogs. He can't draw cats. And this Black Cat number 1 has a cat that looks like a dog on the cover, and I'm so excited to have that issue myself. Huge fan of Phil Noto. Legitimately love his shit. It is stunning. Massive fan. Excited to see him on Cable again this week. I kind of got off track there, sorry. Excalibur number 19 is a Reign of X book that will be coming out. Potentially seeing some Betsy and Quanon drama. I'm hoping that they're going to start that train to get their kind of bullshit fixed. I'd like to see them hash things out between their body swapping history and just all that garbage. I'd love to see that hashed out. And finally, Red Sonja number 25. Red Sonja is getting a new creative team with this issue, including the artists who did the Red Sonja Vampirella series, which I really, really loved the art of. It was so fun. So with this new series, I believe it's going to be jumping into the future. And I haven't been keeping up with Red Sonja because I haven't really been liking what this previous writer was doing with her. It was kind of the standard lone hero who can never really have good stuff in my life because I'm the lone hero. Whatever. We've seen that everywhere. Let's try something else. So hopefully this series will be the better thing that I am looking for. And that wraps up our comic book pull list and spotlight segment. I have one more segment for this week's episode, this Monday episode, and that is the Marvel June solicitations. So if you have any interest in that, stick around, and that'll be the last segment for this somewhat over-length episode. I'm pretty sure at least one of those words I just used wasn't a real word. Anyway, Marvel June solicits. We'll start off, as the solicitation kind of did, with Heroes Reborn. I'm not super interested in this Heroes Reborn thing. I probably won't be following it. I'm more interested in the Infinite Destiny stuff that's also going to be starting in June. It's going to be a lot easier to follow, I think, and just generally easier to follow. It's not an opinion, it just will be. But for some of the things that look kind of interesting for Heroes Reborn, you have American Knights number 1 featuring Commissioner Luke Cage. You have Night Gwen number 1 introducing Nightbird, who is, as far as I can tell, Gwen Stacy as Nighthawk. It says, by day, Dr. Gwendolyn Stacy is Ravencroft Asylum's leading psychiatrist, but by night she dons the guise of the vigilante known as Nightbird. So that's interesting. And then you have Squadron Savage #1, which I guess is Squadron Supreme and just tied with Savage, I don't know. And it says, the Department of Defense has put together a team consisting of Elektra, the Punisher, Crossbones, Cloak, and the enigmatic Murder Hornet. I don't know if that's actually a character right now. I think they might be. I don't know. So interesting little team there. And then you have Weapon X and Final Flight #1, which appears to be some kind of Wolverine-type Alpha Flight crossover thing. So, probably won't be reading any of those, to be honest. Just think the concept is kind of interesting, but not interesting enough to actually figure out what the hell is going on. To the best of my knowledge, this whole thing is just an alternate universe where they're just showcasing different combinations of characters and different heroes. So take that how you will. It was a thing that happened in the 90s and nobody liked, so I don't know why they're doing it again, really. Infinite Destinies, like I said, will also be starting in June. It's going to be having, the June issues are only Iron Man #1, Iron Man Annual #1, Captain America Annual #1, and Black Cat Annual #1. Jed MacKay writes Black Cat, and it seems that this is more or less his mini event, because he's also writing several of these other annuals that are going to appear throughout the, quote, event. I've read the solicitations over and over, and I can't figure out if this is going to be issues that are entirely tie-ins, or if they have it's an issue, and then the back section of it is a second story that's a tie-in. Not really sure. I'm pretty sure they do have 2 stories in each issue, but it's just hard to figure out what's what. We'll wait and see. I do plan on following Infinite Destinies because I am a fairly big fan of Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, and it does seem that there's going to be some very interesting characters popping up as guest stars of this as well. So I'm very curious what's going to happen with Black Cat, what's going to be the fate of Star, and this may or may not lead into some more Thanos stuff. Because I still think Donny Cates has that 2 to 5 year plan of Thanos bringing the Marvel Universe to its knees once again. So we'll wait and see about that. That, of course, is a theory based in the beginning of his Thor run, where Thor sees his death, and that's Thanos with Null's armor as a gauntlet, and then on his other hand, he has the a hammer, whether it's Mjolnir or not, uncertain, but it's covered in the Infinity Gem. So that's going to be a problem whenever that comes to fruition, if it comes to fruition. We also have in June Planet Size X-Men #1 going along with the Hellfire Gala event, which is 12 issues. These 12 issues are, are you ready for this? Marauders 21, X-Force 20, Hellions 12, Excalibur 21, X-Men 21, X-Corp 2, New Mutants 19, Sword #6, Wolverine 13, Way of X #3, X-Factor 10, Children of the Atom 4, and then I guess the 13th final issue is Cable 12, which happens to be the final issue of Cable entirely as a series. That was my bad news about Cable. I'm so sad. I just went on this whole thing about how much I love Cable, the series, and Phil Noto's art, and it's ending in June. I was really hoping that most of these, I mean, we get Excalibur's in the 20s, Hellions at 12, I don't know if that's the last issue, Marauder's going to be in the 20s, Wolverine's getting at least past 12, they're getting to 13. I really thought all these were going to be ongoing series, and I'm sad that Cable is not. My guess, based on the final 2 issue covers, is that there's probably going to be some kind of Old Man Cable's going to come back somehow. Which I really liked this. I'm so sad it's ending. But moving on, we have Marvel as well as doing a Pride issue in June, because apparently you're only allowed to be queer during Pride Month in comics. I'm not mad that they're doing the issue. I'm mad that they're only doing this issue during the designated Pride Month. Like you have a allotted amount of time to express yourself gaily in comics, and that's Pride Month, and after that, nope, back to straights. I know that's not exactly what it is, but it feels like stuff like that and it also feels like just checking a box, which again is the definition basically of pandering, when they just put out the one issue, and it leaves so much room then for people to come in and critique these issues and call them pandering, because ultimately when you only put them out once a year during the designated Pride Month, it basically is pandering. Please allow them to have these issues. Give these characters gay series. I don't get... it's not illegal anymore. It's nuts that it ever was, but, like, allow them to be gay year-round. But anyway, I will definitely be picking up this issue. I know I critique their reasons for doing it, but, or rather just for doing it this one time a year. But it is featuring, as it says in solicitation, Wiccan and Hulkling, Iceman, Mystique and Destiny, Karma, Akihiro, Nico Maruno, and Carolina Dean. Of course, Akihiro is Dakin. And then based on the cover, we also have North Star and Angela, who will be featured, and a plethora of fantastic queer creators. So that's a really fun one to look forward to coming out in June, although it should be something that happens more regularly than the designated Pride Month. And I'm also really excited to see Angela in the comics again. She hasn't been around that much. Mystique and Destiny, I'd love to see a story starring the two of them. Dakin, of course, coming out as queer more or less recently, being kind of having it be official through the X Factor series. So I'm really loving this. I love the idea of it. It's just the fact that it only happens once a year during the allotted Pride Month is my problem. I'd love to see this more often. Absolutely all the time more often. But, yeah, whatever. I guess I'll just take what I can get. Which is what they're relying on. Fans just saying, oh, I'll take what I can get. But anyway, we also have Predator series. I know there's an Alien series starting this coming week, which I didn't mention in my pull list because I'm not reading it. But there's a Predator series also starting in June with Ed Brisson as writer, so that's exciting. You have United States of Captain America, which will be a Steve and Sam adventure. I believe it was Christopher Cantwell is co-writing it, if I do recall. And he has proven his writing fortitude. He is an excellent writer, as I've seen across the Doctor Doom and Iron Man series. And then we have Demon Days Mariko #1, which is the second issue of 5, quarterly is what they call it, 5 quarterly issues of Peach Momoko's Demon Days series. There is the there will be another Beta Ray Bill issue. It comes out like issue 2 or 3. Another issue of the Marvels, another issue of the Mighty Valkyries, which is a 5-issue series. Miles Morales' Clone Saga will be continuing, as will Chip Zdarsky's Spider Shadow series, which is the alternate reality where Spider-Man becomes Venom, or I should say Peter Parker becomes Venom. And then there are Black Cat series, Silk series. Patsy seems to be taking a break from Iron Man for a little bit. Captain Marvel 29's cover is honestly super sexy by Marco Caccetto. Black Widow is going to be featuring Anya Corazon. Daredevil #31 and Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters are all things that will be happening. But I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave this off on side of a downer note. There is also something happening in Fantastic Four by atrocious, apparently, writer Dan Slott. It's called The Wedding of Doom. While that does not seem problematic, he's marrying his daughter. Not literally. The character Victorious, as written by Christopher Cantwell across his 10 issues of the very recent Doctor Doom series, established Victorious to be his daughter figure who sees him and believes him to be very much like a father to her. She's also probably 30 years younger than him. And now they're getting fucking married. What the fuck, Dan Slott, you fucking pervert. That shit is disgusting. I thought we were done with old creepy men writing old creepy men dating young female women in comics. It's bad enough you have Reed and Sue, who was like 30 years older than her and who married her and she was a young woman. Of course people want them to break up, myself included, because she married the first guy who ever looked at her when she was a young woman and he was middle-aged already. That shit's gross. I thought we were over the era of the Doctor Stranges and the Cleas, the 50-year-old men with the 20-year-old women. I thought that shit was done. I am so over these creepy old men fucking up comics. I should think about something positive now, to not end it on that. I love the character of Victorious. Christopher Cantwell ended his Doctor Doom series with very firmly saying that Victorious, basically what happened was Doom found out that her birth mother is a leader of a rebellion basically ends up sending her to kill her with the knowledge that this is her birth mother. The first time she's ever met her birth mother, has to kill her. Victorious is super, of course, torn up about this, because as much as she basically worships Dr. Doom, this is a difficult situation. But she goes through with it, and as she returns and Doom sees how cold she is, he realizes that he probably made a mistake in sending her after her mother, and decides that, he's going to try and do well by her as a ruler of Latveria. And at the same time, Victorious returns and is thinking to herself, as she comes back and reports that the deed is done, thinks to herself that she was now going to do whatever it takes to protect Latveria, even if that means from Doom himself. That is the Victorious who I love in the comics. It's an excellent story, it's an excellent arc for her, and now it's being perverted literally by a gross old man who wants to write a fantasy for himself. I don't know what it is, but it's disgusting. And I very much prefer female characters not to be forced to marry their father figures. Anyway, that wraps up this week's episode, this Monday episode. I will be back this coming Friday, March 26th, and then next Monday for the next Falcon and Winter Soldier episode. This coming Friday, I will be mainly talking about things that have come out in comics between now and then that I really, really enjoyed, or things that I have read, and just things that may be just notable for some reason. Oh, you can find me online. My website is www.sensationalshegeek.weebly.com. This podcast can be found on Podbean, where is the hosting site. It could be found on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and on YouTube. It comes out every Monday and every Friday. And like I said, this next Friday, the 26th episode, will be covering noteworthy things that happened in comics this week between now and then. Once again, also, you can find me on Instagram at Anna with the Comics. You can find me on Twitter, Savage She-Geek. I hope you guys have a great week. I'm sorry this had a bit of a downer in this episode, but we have more good things to come, always. There's always more news and updates and things like that to happen in the various geek industries. So we'll see you on Friday with some great news and some great comics to talk about. And between now and then, make sure you read some comics, be nice to your fellow human beings, whether they are from the same heritage background as you or not, and remember to always stay sweaty.